But I have a big problem when I see people talking about hip hop as if all there is negativity. We've been having these conversations, far beyond hinted at this. We've been having these conversations for years. Before us, older folk lamenting about the current state of hip hop and mumble rap and, rapping over your vocals and how the music sucks and the culture's gone and everything's garbage. They were saying that about us. And when I say they, I mean usually, unattached folks unattached to the culture, white people from everywhere, the C. Dolores Tuckers of the world, maybe the Reverend Calvin Butts, not always just white people, but, people from an older conservative lens. We're trying to squash hip hop for many, many years. We could talk about Two Live Crew being sued for obscenity, going to court and changing the trajectory of what could be considered free speech musically. We have a history of this. Hip hop is wonderful at this. It's the ultimate speech platform when it comes to music and art. And that sometimes means you're going to get speech, you're going to get music that isn't in alignment with however you want to live your life, or however you want your children to live your life, or however you want your communities to live your life. We talk about this as negativity in the music, right? Death and violence and drugs and misogyny and all of these things. And we hear many people, we've all done it. We've all bitched about it at one point in time. We all do it, especially as older heads. Then we start talking about the younger heads as if they don't know how to do music. They're all stupid. They're all garbage. And we start doing to them. We do it with love because we want to see our music and culture. We're purists. We know how it was. We felt nostalgic. We know how it was when it was dope and it was creative and all that stuff. But we fail to understand that for them, it's just as personal and just as part of their being. And when we dismiss their being, number one, we are doing damage and violence to our children. I don't care how you say it. You're harming them by dismissing how they see the world. And I've talked about this a lot. I've said we can get lessons about how to deal with our children through the music that they listen to, through the artists that they relate to. We don't relate to those artists, but they do. Old heads make a joke. I say this all the time. Old heads make a joke like, and I'm not saying old heads disrespectful. I'm an old head myself. I get it. If y'all listen to me, you feel me. We used to rap about selling drugs. They all rap about taking drugs. And I'm like, okay, as if one was better than the other. A, and number two, if my child, my young 16, 17-year-old kid is connecting to an artist because of their self-medication habits in the songs or their depression or emo rap, the things, the feelings there, and the older folks make it sound like that's soft. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm not here to say I'm a hard rock and my son is soft because he's listening to emotional music, King Cudi, and he's listening to Mac Miller, and he's getting all, in his feelings. I'm like, yo, I don't understand the music. I don't understand what you're dealing with, but maybe I want to take you to a therapist. Maybe I'm not going to just sit here and tell you that your taste in music sucks. There are lessons to be found in what our kids listen to. Even if it's negative, even if it's destructive, even if it's death and calling out people like drill music has been accused of. So I'm saying that all these things exist at the beginning of what I'm saying. I think that if all you do is talk about these aspects of hip hop music and culture, which is vast and doesn't just revolve around those things, I kind of expect that you're somebody that doesn't want the world to know that hip hop can be used in schools to engage young people and increase their interest and increase their academic output, because that's been done. We got receipts to show that. I would think that you don't want the world to know that hip hop is being used in mental health settings, as we talked about with Dr. Travis last week, and I've talked about with a ton of people on this show, to help uplift children's lives. Even if it's, let's talk about this music that I hate, but why do you connect to it? And now I have a way of understanding how you look at the world, and now I can help you look at the world better, right? We talked about this with Dr. Travis last week and a bunch of other folk. They don't want you to know that there are actually political groups or political activism groups or community organizations that are helping people understand how the political machinations work, how the systems work, get you to vote, right? They don't want you to know that hip hop can help people do that, right? I've talked about Bettina Love, Dr. Bettina Love, who just wrote a great book about school abolition, that you should check out, Punished for Dreaming. how school reform punishes black children. I'm paraphrasing the subtitle, but it's an amazing book about how the schools aren't taking care of, young black folk in particular, but certainly probably young Hispanic folk and young poor white kids either, but specifically young black children. And that school reform, all these reforms are actually causing more damage. Hip hop, that's a hip hop person. Bettina Love is a hip hop person. She's been doing hip hop education intersections for decades. So if you want to better your education system and get your children better prepared to tackle the world, if you want to get them, she also has a hip hop civics ed curriculum that she built. I'm saying all of these things, and I could go on for hours. I would think that if you don't want people to know that, and all you want to do is regurgitate all the negative aspects of the music and the culture, that you're actually not helping and that you're trying to harm and go against us. Because that's what I hear from politicians, white folk, largely in positions of power. Every hip hop ed teacher or person in education would be like, I tried to take this program to the Board of Education, and they pushed back. You see what Moms for Liberty is doing. They're never going to let these things into schools, but we know that they help young kids, and particularly young kids of color. We know that this happens. So if you're not advocating for that, two things: either you don't know about it, which is perfectly fair and perfectly fine, or you're like an agent against it. Because as I've always said, hip hop's really good at community. It really isn't. It's going to be quite a different thing when it learns how to become constituency. And when we talk about the dumbing down of the music, the dumbing down of the culture, that's because we always say there's a plan, there's a ploy, there's a plot to dumb down the music so that young, particularly black folk, but young Americans of all races and colors and creeds don't get the knowledge that used to be on the radio. So if there's a plan and a ploy, and all you're doing is pointing out the negativity, then I wonder if you're helping that ploy, unintentionally or intentionally. And I say that because we've recently seen a couple of things in the news, in the blogosphere, in the hip hoposphere, right? Where we've had, this is weird. I was on a roll and then I don't know where the thing is I wanted to play. Where we've seen this, we've had XZIBIT on a podcast talking about the staying power of hip hop being gone, basically saying that young people don't do anything of importance anymore. And so we're, again, throwing out the hip hop baby with the mumble rap bathwater, and you're downing everything that comes out of these young people's mouths. But it's funny, Kendrick Lamar won a Pulitzer. And there are people who are doing innovative music. I've talked about like folks like Earth Gang, and I've talked about other young artists coming up, and doing these things. Tierra Whack. There are people that can spit fire, making dope music. It's just not your thing. You also don't know that these artists are becoming teaching artists. So all these little combinations, intersections are happening. And when you don't know about these things, but you speak on them on big platforms, especially big platforms that go out to an army of folks who are unconnected to the culture, white people, other people in positions of power, all you're reaffirming is that hip hop is deadly and dark and venomous. And we know these things aren't true because, like I said, all of these things I said can help people. So why are you on the podcast?
I would give anything to see the new artists be a little more comprehensive.
I was just gonna ask, where rap is now. Are you okay with this? I mean, it's definitely changed so much. You have like the mumble rap stuff, and you have like all the new stuff. Like, you've been in the game for so long. Where do you see that? Where do you see it going?
I think the education system has failed us. You know what I'm saying? Like comprehension is
ironic, because I'm telling you that hip hop can save the education system. And here this dude who I love XZIBIT. Don't get me wrong. This is not, I'm no hate to this one particular person, but he's about to tell you how the education system has failed us so bad that young people are making rap that's incomprehensible. Not true, because we're talking about a small subsection of rap that might be on the radio, I guess. And not only that, I have a whole thing where I said most of the rap that people listen to on the radio isn't the rap that young people listen to on Spotify or YouTube Music. Most of the top most played things on YouTube Music aren't even on the radio, but our kids are listening to them. So the only exposure that a lot of these folks have is whatever they're catching in a whiff going by. They're not actually finding a way to check for new music, check for innovative new artists because they exist. And if you're not finding them, I'm wondering where you're looking. And then I'm basically realizing, oh, you're not looking. So ironic that he's calling out the education system.
Everything. And once people started communicating with emojis and farts and, you know what I'm saying, and beeps and you know, in 30-second, you know, intervals, you know, 2 10-sentence, you know, like
what?
Dumbing yourself down to communicate with this new language that doesn't give you much room for comprehension.
So because people are doing emojis, rap is stupid. Yeah. Okay,
or, you know, or expansion, you know? So, yeah, I think that I can't criticize the new rappers because they're, look, you
that's exactly what you're doing, but okay.
Now you have to get to a person who's going to listen to 30 seconds of what you have to say and try to put a whole album into that is impossible.
True. Facts.
So, you know, you look at the way the albums are put together, there's 3 or 4 songs, 5 songs that you want to listen to when there may be 10 songs, 12 songs. You don't get to open the CD or the record. You don't get to read the producers. There's no emotional investment in the music.
Okay. So again, here's someone, all respect due. We're all about the same age. We all went through the same. We came up together. We get it. There was something delightful about opening a CD cover. That does not equate to there's no emotional attachment to the music. We just talked about how emotionally attached. You can't tell me that people wasn't emotionally attached to you know, young artists. Again, what I say before, like Cudi and Mac Miller and Juice WRLD, and like I'm talking about the, you know, and now I'm mentioning ones who've died, right? But have also like tapped into something in our young people that we never had in our music during those years. And that's just the people we know about. You don't hear him say, this is the bottom line. You don't hear him say, you know, I wish that we had more artists like Bing Bong Bing. And what they'll most unimaginably do is they'll say Kendrick and J. Cole all the time because they've never gone farther than that. They don't know any deeper than that. They'll never say those things. So you can criticize that, yes, a lot of people make music for 30-second clips on TikTok. 100%. It's a whole new thing. It's also a whole new thing that hip hop invented, by the way. So we could talk about, these are new revenue streams. These are new industries. We could talk about whether influencing is, you know, the way we might want to have our children make a living. But some of our children are making more money than we do. So, I mean, can we really, can we not like criticize
when
them?
We were putting music out, you had the CD cover, the album cover, cassette. You get to open it. You get to see who produced it.
It's
you
like
get
a
to
ceremony.
Read the lyrics.
Yeah.
Stop it. You got people who literally can communicate with their artists that they love because of social media. You actually have a one-on-one connection sometimes. You have artists doing podcasts, behind the scenes, documentaries, TikTok, Twitter, X, Instagram. You could actually be more connected to the ins and outs of your artist, which might be a problem in some ways. But don't tell me that there's no emotional connection to the artist.
You know, you're not guessing. You're not, you know.
Right, because they don't speak English. Right?
You know, a lot of the things that made us have 10, 15, 20, 30-year-long careers doesn't exist anymore. So imagine what it's going to be like 10 years from now when they try to do, they're going to be like, you know how at the end of the award shows, they show all the people that died that year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, the memorial.
Like people are gonna be like, who is? You know what I'm saying? They're gonna
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like who's gonna go? Who? Do you remember that? Like
I'm there with all the presenters now, so I don't even know.
Oh, thank God we're talking to this guy who obviously.
Right. It's gonna be very difficult to be able to say.
I liked her opinion right there.
Okay. Now I don't know if they're doing it on purpose.
I'm trying something new with this, y'all. So let me know if, I just need to move on.
Nah, but hip hop doesn't have the staying power that it used to have. And it's
because obviously you look 20 years in the future and saw that nothing stayed. How can you say that it doesn't have
dominated for the last, everything. You see country music having elements of hip hop. You see pop music. When's the last time you saw a rock band that didn't have a hip hop element to it?
So this is why I'm confused, X. Hip hop doesn't have a staying power, but yet it's infiltrated every other genre of music and now influences everything. But it doesn't have staying power. You'd rather just a rock band that sounds like rock. Okay.
Like I'm sick of hip hop. And I love hip hop. You know what I'm saying? I want to see a rock band come out and steamroll. Okay. When's the last time we had, AC/DC?
Okay, sure.
Or you know what I'm saying? Or anything that's, Limp Bizkit or fucking Linkin Park or
early bands that had hip hop influence. I'm so confused.
Like I'll take one of those, because right now I think the music itself isn't a good representation of where we're supposed to be.
So the music itself isn't a good representation of where we're supposed to be. But again, where are you looking? What do you listen to? Because we can talk about music that isn't meant to do anything but, party music. We had that too. We can talk about violence and music, but Mobb Deep's gunshots used to let us levitate. You know what I mean? Make us levitate. We can talk about sex and women. Oh God. Do the men hate the women that are making all the songs about the sex? Oh, how dare you make all the songs about the drippy cat and the bongos? How dare you speak this way? I mean, we have all these criticisms.
Not taking anything away from these kids.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Because they're feeding their families. They're not in the street. They're not doing.
Watch this.
Some of them aren't doing anything illegal, but.
Oh, some of them are. Now what? And then all the non-hip hop heads, what do they do?
But yeah. I still think that there's a real path right now for somebody to come out with some real content and have that staying power and show that it's possible. Okay,
so no and shut up. Now listen, I'm not trying to be rude. I love XZIBIT. I can tell, this is my theory. So this is me. I can tell that you just don't know. Because why wouldn't you mention these? You put me on, this is the Adam Carolla show. You know how many listeners listen to I'm loud now. You know how many listeners listen to Adam Carolla? And that just sat through this segment and have gone away saying rap ain't shit, hip hop ain't shit. These young kids are stupid. Nothing's coming out. It's dead. It's gone. I'm just going to pull out my CD, which cars don't even have a player. Anyway, and that's the impression they're getting. And I'm telling you that hip hop saves lives in mental health settings. And hip hop brings up the education system. And hip hop is used in international forums like Far Beyond does. And hip hop can be used to teach financial literacy to kids and can teach architecture and introduce them to computer programming. And I see it and I talk to them and they've been on the show. And I may be the only one preaching this gospel, but I got the receipts. If you love this culture so much, why are you degrading it so much? This would be like if someone said to me, so tell me about black people. And I'm like, well, they're all in jail. So you tell me. And I'm not discussing any of the nuance about why that might be, why institutional racism and over policing, like none of the things. And you're doing the same thing to the music and culture that A, you love, and B, can save our children's lives. Why? And then this guy.
Hip hop has been around for 50 years. Not a single hospital, not a single school, not a single bank, not a single supermarket, not a single distribution company. How can we call hip hop a blessing to the black community when that type of money being made off of our culture and the community doesn't benefit from it at all? So you come to the community and give out a few turkeys. You come to the community and give out a few pair of sneakers. You come to the community and you throw a couple parties. And in exchange for some damn turkeys and chickens and some sneakers, you push death and destruction on our children for a living. And we're supposed to be okay with that because you dropped off some clothes and some turkeys. It's not acceptable. Until hip hop begins to be a blessing for the black community, hip hop is an agent of white supremacy.
Woo!
And then the rapper will say, well,
until we talk about hip hop and mention all the great things that hip hop can do for the Black community, perhaps those comments are agents of white. I'm not. I can't speak for Dr. Umar. I can't speak for the Black community. You know me. I can't do that. But I can speak for hip hop, and I can speak for all the great things that I know hip hop does that benefit the Black community. A hospital, a bank, a school. First of all, Puffy helped open charter schools in Harlem. Yay. But everyone was like, yay, that's great for hip hop. And I'm like, I don't know. Do you know about charter schools? You know that charter schools are not always the best thing for the communities in which they are placed. Like it's not that cut and dry to say Puffy made a school and yay, Puffy, yay, hip hop. A bank? I mean, they kind of, Killer Mike's pawning off Greenwood Bank as a bank. It's not a bank, it's a financial institution because you can't build a bank. You can't say, like, Jay-Z can't build a bank and not incorporate it into the banking system. And that's not going to happen. That's not the way to change the game. A hospital, like this hospital system, you can't just open a hospital. You can open a clinic. You could, donate some money. And I'm sure some of the, I would hope, yes, some of the richer hip hop heads are doing that stuff. But that's not what's going to change the trajectory of the Black community. The hip hop education movement that we've talked about, the hip hop mental health therapy, the hip hop incorporation, that's what's going to change. We see it happening. Want to be a bank? Like, who wants to be a bank? You can't be a bank. You could be what Nas does, and he works the system from the inside. Venture capital, right? Starts Queensbridge, and I don't know whether all that is good, but I know that Nas is now making documentaries with mass appeal. Nas is doing a lot of stuff that tells the story of hip hop, and perhaps he's getting funded because he started investing in Ring when Ring was nothing and made $500 million off of that. Jay-Z, you know what? I got a lot to say about Jay-Z's contributions to social justice and society and stuff, but, keep making Khalif Browder documentaries. Keep bailing protesters out of jail. Okay, I'll tell you, the NFL thing, it's a whole other talk. But okay, so you say that, you can't come into town and make some turkeys, hip-hop not helping the Black community, but you're literally ignoring the two of the biggest entrepreneurs, moguls in hip-hop history that have done things that have directly helped the Black community? Not to mention the hundreds and hundreds of artists and artist-affiliated folk and hip-hop affiliated. Dr. Bettina Love ain't no rapper. She's not coming to town to drop turkeys off. But she's writing books about school education abolition with a hip-hop grit and a mindset. Why are we not talking about these people, Dr. Umar? Why are we not saying your platform is so fucking huge? You know what I would do to have a platform where the dialogue is interviewing me? And because no time you hear me open my mouth am I saying hip hop isn't the greatest thing that ever made on this earth and it's saving people's lives that can do all these things. Oh, but all the da-da-da. Yeah, I know. And so if I give you a group that's full of men and they're doing some great work, or if I highlight a man on this program, are you going to say, well, men suck throughout history? Yeah, I know, but this one doesn't. So let's focus on this. Yeah, hip hop sucks. It's not the type of music I used to, we used to have CD covers. Oh my God, are you serious? Look at the people I talk about and the people that I've talked to on the show that are doing amazing work. And you're going to tell me you're going to be stuck on CD covers when I've seen Breakbeat Code teach young African-American kids, 13, 14 years old, in 4 hours, the basics of computer programming. They've never seen, touched, felt, smelled a computer program in their lives. And in 4 hours, they're like, I like beats. I like computers, I guess. I'll go to this stupid program at the library my mother made me go to. And in 4 hours, they've used Python to create beats by pulling beats from a repository and stacking them and layering them. Now they got these dope beats and they're freaking proud of themselves and they know how to program a computer. But you're going to call out the turkey givers, which actually isn't that bad a thing. At least they're doing something. I don't get it.
We didn't invent violence. You're right. You didn't invent violence. There was gang banging before hip hop.
Yeah.
Okay. There was drug dealing before hip hop.
Yep.
There was black on black crime before hip hop.
Yeah.
But let me tell you where hip hop is guilty.
Tell me.
Hip hop glamorized it. Hip hop glorified it. Hip hop put a spotlight on negative aspects of black culture.
So the thing about that is this. Yeah. Because there are negative aspects of black culture. There are communities that have not been taken care of by governments or by municipalities or by, you know, the entirety of this country. I learned more about the history of innovators and black excellence and inventors through KRS-One's song, You Must Learn, than I ever did in a high school or junior high school or probably in college. I learned more about police brutality and gang violence through NWA and all that negativity out in the West Coast that we didn't really know about in New York. And I'm a white dude from Long Island, but, you know, I'm in the mix. We all did this together. This wasn't a revelation for me. My Jamaican American friends, we all came up at the same time, listened to the same music, didn't know nothing about colors on the West Coast. We learned about this through hip hop because the media wasn't talking about it. If the media was talking about it, they were just negatively giving a negative impression of what hip hop is. I did a little bit of a study. I looked at 1993, which was one of the seminal years in hip hop. 1993 was like The Chronic, or 1993, 1994, The Chronic, Tribe Called Quest, all these wonderfully artistic and creative and brilliant and seminal and long-lasting albums in hip-hop's canon. The New York Times, the nation's paper of record, the entire year, I looked at every article that was written about rap or hip-hop, and except for like one or two, there was probably like maybe 20, 25. Every single one was, you know, radio station opposes negative, violent rap lyrics. Reverend Calvin Butts runs over CDs in Harlem with a bulldozer. Rapper arrested for sexual assault. Fight at, you know, concert, whatever. All these negative things in the paper of record that went out to all the, you know, conservative folk or non-attached to the culture folk. But that was the year we had Tribe Called Quest. That was the year we had like Wu-Tang and the Chronic, or I'm mixing up the years, but you get what I'm saying. I looked at specifically this one year, and that's the impression that was getting out to the world, that rap and hip hop and those associated with it ain't shit. But then 30 years later, they're like, 1993 was the year that changed everything and one of the best years for rap music, and how The Chronic was a masterpiece of social commentary at the time. All this later. But the damage has been done because all you're doing is putting out to the people that don't know any better that it's detrimental and damaging and degrading and destructive. That makes it harder for the people that I talk about, folks that are listening, folks that have been on the show, folks that are doing this work. It makes it harder for them to succeed. So Exhibit, brother, Dr. Umar, yeah, and so many people agreeing, like, oh my God, yeah, that's right. Look at the comments on any of these posts on social media. Yeah, that's right. I've been saying that. Oh yeah, no doubt. Used to be like this. We used to have this. And I'm like, y'all still got it. It's still here. What are y'all doing? Why are you? So to exhibits, and they're not the first. There's a lot of people that do this. When Dr. Umar says, until hip hop becomes beneficial to the black community, it's an agent of white supremacy. I think the agents of white supremacy want you to think that hip hop can't uplift the black community. I know it can. The people that I work with, a bunch of them from the black community, know that it can. So inadvertently, perhaps, I don't think that Dr. Umar is an agent of white supremacy. I don't know. Who would know? Would you know? I don't know. Inadvertently, the exhibits, the Dr. Umars, they're not qualified. They're not in it like we are. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. They're not looking, because if they did, why would they not mention it? Why would they not say, everything's terrible and the turkeys are bullshit, but, do what Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen did for 15 years in the Bronx. Do what Rebel Diaz did with the Rebel Diaz Arts RDAC Center in the Bronx. Do what my man Majesty was doing, rest in peace, bringing organizations like Cop Watch into the album release party, so that you're getting there, you're getting your hip hop on, you're rocking out, you're buying your merch, but then you're learning about how to properly record police interactions with the public. Talk about No Name and what they've been doing up in Chicago with the Abolitionist Bookstore. Mention Kendrick Lamar's Pulitzer Prize to remind people that it's not incomprehensible mumble rap. Ha ha ha. We have geniuses, brilliant young people from all across the spectrum that can make some stupid ass dance songs. I remember the Pee Wee Herman. Remember that dancer? Joski loved the Pee Wee Herman. And you're going to talk to me about incomprehensible, childish rap lyrics today? Come on, man. We've always had this stuff. Hip hop was never meant to stay just stuck in pop music. It's expanded. It's outgrown it. It's left its seed all over, just like XZIBIT said, all the different genres, country music, R&B, pop, rock. There's hip hop everywhere. It's impregnated the world musically, artistically. And now it's like, we onto something else. I'm trying to change the education system like I changed the music system. Business, says hip hop. I'm trying to change the mental health therapy game, health and wellness as a whole. You talk about why hip hop didn't build a hospital. What hip hop can do is teach doctors to be more conscious of their Black patients. I've seen hip hop do this because they don't understand culturally where their patients come from culturally. And so you get misdiagnoses and you get pain tolerances are all off. And if you haven't learned it by now from your classes in medical school, well, hip hop's done a really good job of impregnating every single other industry it's touched: advertising, marketing, fashion, the music business, streaming. It's all because of mixtapes. I've connect those dots. So if it can do that, it can do anything, bro. It can bring any message. And politically, oh man, don't get me started. We'll talk about that on another episode, on another Monday night of the Hip Hop Can Save America live stream show, because politically, especially if you're a Democrat or whatever, when you supposedly have this voting bloc that always votes for you, but is really looking at you side eyes these days, you got to tap into the cultural language that doesn't just affect, communities of color, but also reaches out into this universal coalition that only hip hop can deliver. But no one does this. No one thinks about this. Why? Because hip hop is garbage and trash and destructive and degenerate and destructive and degrading, and it's misogynistic, and it's all these things. Because that's what we keep hearing from big mouths on big platforms. Listen to this big mouth on a little platform, and let's see if we can change that narrative together.